to acknowledge MEC Park Stow, who has joined us in the room. For those of us who are here physically, can we just welcome him with a warm applause? And so Minister Ndabeni Abraham is touching on a very important point in reference to the recent World Bank report, just showcasing how unfair and unequal the South African fabric is right now. And also speaking to the importance of ensuring that it changes, because we know that for economies to move forward with meaning and impact, they need to do so in a manner that is sustainable. So as she referred to the fellow hustlers out there, your job is certainly one to hustle really hard to try and change the framework. Ladies and gents, on to the next part of the program, where we will be receiving an overview of the event and also the latest that Proudly South African has done so far in terms of increasing the level of local economic activity. It's done in this economy, and that's also done for export. And before we get there, though, I'd like for us to look at this wonderful video, an amazing video that really speaks to everything that Proudly South African does. And it is really inspirational footage, and it acknowledges that many of the Proudly South African members are export ready and are certainly competing with the best of international products. With that said, it also doesn't take away the ask that we have from all consumers to buy our own local products in store here in South Africa or on online platforms. So let's take a quick look at this very exciting and inspirational video, following which we will hear from the CEO of Proudly South Africa, Mr. Eustace Mashimbaye.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Program Director. As introduced by the Program Director, my name is Eustace Mashimbe, and I'm the CEO of Proudly South African. First, I'd like to acknowledge MEC Park Stow, who's with us in the room. Thank you, MEC, for making the time. The Minister, Minister Stella Ndabeni Abrahams, for the keynote address and the welcome address that she gave this morning. A big thanks to Advocate Priya Hassan, who delivered the welcome remarks, and the chairperson of the Proudly SA campaign, Mr. Howard Gabriels, who's with us in the room, distinguished guests who are all online, and all of the panelists and presenters who will grace the occasion today. My role is quite simple, is to take you through what the thinking is behind this Buy-Local Summit, and to give you a sense of how far we have progressed as a campaign since the campaign was formed 20 plus years ago, as you saw in the video that played just before my address. That the campaign has been around for quite a while. And some will ask, but what is this Buy-Local campaign? What is Proudly South African? What is it meant to achieve? And why do we have a campaign like this in the country? It's meant to assist those entities who are brave enough, those entrepreneurs who are brave enough to go and invest in capacity that will enable them to produce products, enable them to render services, such that they know that on the back of that investment, people are going to actually buy from them. It defeats the purpose. You can run the best business in the world, but if no one buys from you, it defeats the purpose. And so what the Buy-Local campaign seeks to do is to ensure that those businesses that are making products, those businesses that are rendering services, know that, that people are going to buy from them, such that they can retain the jobs that they've created in those entities, but they can create much needed new job opportunities. The campaign has four focus areas, and the first one being we focus on buying that happens in the public sector. The collective procurement spend in the public sector, if you look at all organs of state and all spheres of the state, can make a meaningful contribution to the growth of the economy if all of that is done with localization in mind. And so there's legislation in place, and what we do as Proudly South African is we support the implementation of that legislation. We help with driving up compliance levels with that regulation, because the 28 items that are designated for localization are items which were designated on the back of studies that were done where we know that we do have the capacity in the country. We know that we are able to meet the demand that exists for those products in the country. And so we urge all public sector officials when procuring to consider the regulations, and over and above that, the regulations do allow for self-designation. So even when procuring products that are not designated, a procuring entity can include provisions in their tenders that will allow them to buy locally made products. The second area of focus is the private sector. When it comes to the private sector, there is a concerted effort that has been made by Public South African to go out and get the private sector and big business especially to volunteer, to buy local and to implement local procurement policies and practices within their organizations. You cannot force the private sector to buy local, so what we are doing is we appeal to them to volunteer, to buy local and to support the cause. And tomorrow we'll be delivering some of those commitments that come from the private sector. The third area of our work looks at the importance of buying locally made products in the context of consumers. All of us make purchasing decisions in our homes, and so consumers have to be educated on the economic impact of their purchasing decisions. And so we do focus on consumer education. A big part of the work that we have been rolling out over the past couple of years has now started to focus on getting to as many consumers as possible. Lastly, those who buy in the public sector and the private sector, and even those who buy for their own households, might not necessarily know how to find the products and how to access them. And so the role of Proudly South African in that regard is to promote accessibility of locally made products and services. And so every time you come across a product that carries the Proudly South African logo, you know that it embodies these 4 key values. The first one, that the product is made in South Africa. We're going to hear later on from the MEC who will be launching the local content framework for the province. And it talks to what we are about as Proudly South African. Proudly South African says if you're going to make a product or going to render a service, make sure that as best as possible, your value chains have local products entrenched in them. Even in instances where the raw materials that we require as a producer are not available in the country, we're saying bring those in, but ensure that the conversion of those raw materials into the finished product that will go to the market happens within the borders of South Africa. The second aspect that is important is that the product must not just be locally made, but must be of a high quality nature and conform to the prescribed standards that have been set for that industry and for products and services that come out of that industry. Thirdly, products that are made by companies that affiliate with us have to be made by companies that ensure that they help us preserve the environment, they help us recycle and reuse waste and dispose of waste responsibly and just reduce the carbon footprint in the country. And lastly, companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that they implement sound and fair labor practices in the course of doing business. But why do we have a campaign like this? It's because the country battles 3 main challenges, and the first one being unemployment. And we all know someone who's unemployed. We all know of people who are battling to find jobs to a point where they are discouraged. And we saw a report that came out last week that said we are the most unequal society in the world. So a lot of our people continue to live below the poverty line. And so a campaign like ours seeks to ensure that as many people as possible can get into jobs. Those that are in jobs can stay in those jobs. Those who run businesses will tell you that when the purchase orders come through, it means a lot to them and those that they employ because they know that they can keep going. And so that's what Proudly South African is about. It's about ensuring that whatever share of the market exists, we can claw back as much as possible and in favor of those who make their products locally. So the unemployment numbers, the last ones that came out for the quarter ending September, so quarter 3 of 2021, showed us that there was an increase again of unemployment to 34.9%, with 7.9 million of our people unemployed. And if you add those who are discouraged, as part of the expanded definition of unemployment, you're looking at about an unemployment rate of 46.6%. About 11.9 million of our people are unemployed, and this is in a country with a population of between 59 and 60 million people. And so in the context of the work that we're doing, especially today with the focus being on SMMEs and the role that we play as Proudly South African in that regard, we have to touch on the fact that developed economies thrive on the back of SMMEs that are doing well, small businesses that continue to thrive and contribute as much as 90% in some instances to their respective GDPs. As an economy, South Africa is still lagging behind, and the NDP target for 2030 says we need to get to 45%. But for SMMEs to thrive, and the minister touched on some of this, you need them to benefit from this ecosystem, which will allow them to access information, funding, support programs around productivity. They need to ensure that they can continue to comply, and so they need non-financial support in terms of ensuring that they comply. They need other support from both the private sector and the public sector. They need to ensure that their IPs and trademarks are secured, and more than anything, they need access to markets, and that's where Proudly South African comes in. Our role is to ensure that once they've accessed all of these services, and all of the support programs that are in both the public and the private sector, that we allow them to benefit from the markets that we will have been able to secure through our buy local initiatives. So when it comes to the private sector, we have come up with a portal known as the Market Access Platform. And what this platform seeks to do is to ensure that those who are responsible for buying in the private sector have a place where they can find suppliers. We have populated the platform with suppliers who we have vetted, suppliers across all industries who will be able to supply high quality locally made products that are vetted by us and that they can trust. Buyers have always said to us, they don't necessarily know where to find the products and they don't necessarily know where to find the companies. And in instances where they do find the companies, there are times where they don't trust that the company will deliver on time, that the quality will be right, and that they can trust that it will not disrupt their respective supply chains and their businesses. And so with this platform and with this portal, we are giving buyers an opportunity to be on a platform where they can instantly do a search, find a company that they can buy from. And the biggest benefit with it is that once they have bought from this company, they can give them a rating so that their peers can see what the service levels were, especially in terms of the quality, in terms of delivery on time, and more than anything, they will know that they're buying from companies that will supply to them locally made products. And so we are doing the work in the private sector, engaging a lot of entities in the private sector to give us localization commitments, and we're delivering some of these tomorrow, and we have entities that are going to indicate to us which items they've ring-fenced for localization, which items are going to buy locally, and what we will continue to do is the companies that we continue to vet will leave on MAP. Those buyers and those companies that give us localization commitments will also register on MAP, such that the companies themselves can even advertise the tenders on MAP and ensure that the procurement opportunities go to local producers. What this will do is it will ensure that those companies that have given us commitments buy locally made products, and the responsibility that we will take up as Proudly South African is to report on the procurement spend that has been directed to local products, but also the impact that it has had on creation of jobs and on economic growth. We have also created portals in response to the pandemic. A lot of these items that you see on the screen have been procured from outside of the country, but what we've done is we've built up a solid base of companies that can supply and meet the needs of the country insofar as face masks, hand sanitizers, detergents and disinfectants, face shields, medical PPE, and any buyer in the country knows that if you go onto the Proudly SA website, if you go to the COVID-19 portal page, you can find these items, including medical PPE, which we are actively promoting to private hospital groups, to public sector, and to ensure that anyone who makes a purchasing decision in favor of buying medical PPE buys that which is locally made. So on the portal, you will find plastic aprons, you will find isolation gowns, surgical masks, FFP2 respirators, medical grade sanitizers, as well as examination of sterile gloves. So there is no need to buy any of these items from outside of the country. Capacity has been built up. These companies are employing people, and there are many jobs that are on the line. We know that there is buying that happens in that space, and we want you to direct it to these companies. And it's easy to find them. Just go to our website. Like I said, in the public sector, these items have been designated. They are the 27 items that are designated, plus cement, which was recently designated. So if government buys any of these items, they're meant to buy them locally. And in Proudly South African, the role that we have to play is to ensure that as government advertises procurement opportunities for these specific items, we take the tenders, ensure that the procurement RFPs and tenders come out with a provision that will exclude imported items from being supplied to government, and we will then identify local manufacturers in our book, send them the tenders such that they can respond to the tenders, and even assist state entities to correct the tenders where they are not compliant, such that we ensure that government does not buy any imported items. What this does, as a result of the interventions that we've put in place, is that you have bidders who are responding to the tenders, but you also have state entities who might have issued the tenders without the correct provisions, correcting them and buying locally made products. When it comes to consumers, for those with consumer-facing products, as an SMME, as a big business, if you want to sell your products to consumers, one of the biggest challenges you are going to have is you are going to have to rely, in most instances, on retailers and on retail platforms, including on online platforms. And so what we have done as Proudly South African is we've created an online store, rsamade.co.za. Anyone with a consumer-facing product can list their products on there at no additional cost, over and above what they pay to affiliate with Proudly South African. And what it does is it gives the consumer an assurance that the product that they are buying is locally made and is of a high quality nature, because we will have vetted it. And this online store is meant to rival all of the online stores that you have in the country. The differentiator in this instance is that everything on that platform is sold locally. We even partnered with the DTIC to take some of the products that are locally made to the Dubai 2020 Expo, which is ending at the end of March. But this has given an opportunity to a lot of locally made products to go and compete at a global platform, compete at a global stage, and we have seen a lot of orders flowing through as a result of that. As I conclude, there is perception out there that affiliating with Proudly South African is expensive. So I thought I must leave this right until the end before I leave and assure all of you that it's not expensive. The Board of Proudly South African has approved since April 2017 the revision of the membership structure. And the fees applicable is that if you're a startup with turnover up to 5 million rands, you only need to pay 500 rands per annum, renewable on an annual basis, and the most that any company that affiliates with us will ever have to pay is 100,000 rands. As a member of Proudly South African, you can utilize your logo to identify yourself, identify the products and the services that you're rendering as that which complies with our criteria, which will let the consumer know that the product is locally made and is of a high quality nature. But most importantly, you can then benefit from the access to market programs that I took you through. So as an SMME, as big business, partner with us, affiliate with us, such that we can help turn the tide. If you want to make contact with us, if you want to join Proudly South African, become a member, contact us, info@proudlysa.co.za, and we will be able to assist you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Eustace. There was actually a question that did come through from the virtual audience just about becoming a proudly a South African member, exactly what it meant, and I think that you've spelt it out quite clearly, the benefits that do come in terms of the support that is lent to enterprises, as well as the increase to more markets. So I hope that that question has been answered for the individual who did ask it. And also in terms of how one does become a member, I think that the last slide in which you revealed the rands and cents really spoke to that as well. So thanks so much, Eustace. We're going to take a very short ad break just to prepare for the next session that will be speaking more closely to special economic zones and the role that they will play in driving localization and supporting SMEs or the hustlers, as well as creating jobs. So taking a very brief break, and we'll see you soon. Do stay with us.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us, what we sometimes forget. But it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
It's morning already. Let's do this live thing. Forgot to unpack my new Sheet Street fleece last night. Can't wait to use it tonight. Every time I step into the bathroom, it lightens up my morning because everything is locally made. Now for the hard part, choosing what to wear. Will it be an outfit from Plus Fab today? Or maybe an outfit from Chepa with drip sneakers? Tsepo needs to start polishing his own shoes now. I mean, he's in grade 3. Okay, 15 minutes left. Now for a good cup of coffee to get me ready for the day.
Make your choice. Buy local to create